At the beginning of the film, we will be shown 4 sadistic conspirators named Judd, Dog, Gren, and May. At that time they were coming to a house owned by one of the residents who were celebrating Christmas. And when the owner of the house opens the door, Judd brutally stabbed the man, and even they also executed all the victims' families without the slightest mercy. Long story short, then the film again moved by being shown to a girl named Clara, while for people who are in sports is a girl named Samantha. It is known that these are 2 quiet students who attend an all-girls school. After the class was over, Samantha, who was walking in the cafeteria, was suddenly visited by 3 girls who asked him to discuss the murders that often occur lately. And the killing group dubbed them the Christmas Killers. They often leave symbols on every murder they have committed. People believe that they are a group of heretical cults, aka psychopaths, who often sacrifice humans for ritual materials. Then in the evening, because Christmas Day is coming soon, there are students who start packing things to go home. But after Samantha had just finished packing, she then got a call from her father who said that he could not pick her up home on Christmas Day. So that Samantha, who is sad because she cannot celebrate Christmas at home, inevitably has to spend the holiday time only in the school dormitory. Then when Samantha was going to calm down to go to the toilet, she accidentally saw Clara, who was strangely injuring her own hand. So Clara, who was caught injuring himself, immediately left Samantha. Then the film moved back to 2 days before Christmas, by being shown to the sect of psychopaths who are holding a priest captive. And it is known that the targets who are often killed by them are people who are obedient to religion, including harmonious couples. Because psychopaths consider that they are people who are suitable to be used as a sacrifice for the devil. So that without the slightest mercy the heretical sects immediately finished off the priest, even to peel the skin alive. Back at the boarding school, there were students who began to prepare to go home to celebrate Christmas with their families. Meanwhile, Samantha and Clara can only be silent with envy when they see their friends returning home. But fortunately there was a teacher named Rose, who chose not to go home in order to take care of them both. Long story short, in the evening Samantha, who was still upset because she could not go home, she then went to the basement to find alcohol that had been hidden by the teachers. But when in the basement, Samantha accidentally saw Clara there. Those who did not speak at first slowly began to become familiar. Meanwhile, when the conspirators' psychopaths are traveling, suddenly, the car they were driving hit a deer, along with the arrival of a patrol policeman who saw the psychopaths. Then the police will check on them. The psychopaths immediately shot him. While in the dormitory, when Rose, Samantha and Clara just finished preparing dinner dishes, suddenly a mysterious man began to knock on the door. And when Rose opened the door, the person who came to their place turned out to be none other than a gang of psychopaths who called for help to be allowed to rest, because one of her friends was injured. At first Rose refused because she was afraid that they were bad people. But out of pity, Rose, who initially had doubts, finally wanted to allow them to enter and rest. The psychopaths who had initially pretended to be good are now starting to show their true attitude. Make Rose, Samantha and Clara, who panicked, immediately ran away, before finally the psychopaths who want to play around first to their victims began to scatter looking for their whereabouts. On the other hand, Dog is still busy looking for Samantha and Clara to the classroom. Quickly Samantha directly hit the chair in his direction. Although he could fight, unfortunately Dog even managed to catch him. On the other hand, Jimmy is one of the teachers as well as Rose's boyfriend. Finally he arrived at the dormitory to ascertain the state of his lover. But as soon as he was about to enter, he was immediately hit from behind, instantly rendering Jimmy unconscious. Even Rose, who had seen the incident just now, had to end up getting caught as well. After the victims were captured, the psychopaths then tortured them a bit and even forced Rose to eat food in a bound position. Then Jimmy, who is angry to see his lover being tortured like that, he tries to rebel against the psychopaths. And because of that action, Jimmy had to end up being killed in a terrible way. Not long after, Judd then continued to take Rose, Samantha and Clara to another room to get ready to perform a ritual sacrifice to the devil. Before the end, a symbol of a circle and a fire is lit. As the ritual began, they took skin incisions from the priests they had killed. On the other hand, Rose, who had managed to escape and was about to attack, unfortunately, his efforts had to end in vain. Because of this, Judd then immediately dragged him to the middle of the circle symbol and immediately finished him off. Because it is known that the condition for successful ritual efforts is to sacrifice innocent people. But those who believe that the devil will appear after performing the ritual, oddly enough, nothing happens. Here, so Gren thought if they had made a mistake or something was missed while performing the ritual. To make sure, then Mai and Judd retrieved the ritual spellbook in the basement of the dormitory. On the other hand, Dog is upset and feels that the killing they have done so far is just in vain. He then tells Gren to keep Samantha and Clara alone, while he will go around looking for an alcoholic drink to calm down. Then in the basement room, Jude and May, who had managed to find the book, began to re-understand the contents of the book. On the other hand, when Gren was still guarding Samantha and Clara tried to influence him. He even said that hell was waiting for them. Before the end, Clara immediately showed us strange symbols on his body. From here we finally begin to know that all this time it turns out Clara understands more about ritual books than psychopaths. Even the whisper Clara had just said to Gren was strangely heard by Judd, May and Dog. While in the basement room, while still busy understanding about the contents of the ritual book, he finally began to realize something, that the ritual they were doing was not a ritual to summon demons. Instead of freeing the evil demons that have been trapped in the school, and if the last ritual, which is at the expense of the guilty or sinful person, is carried out, then the devil will be freed from the place where he has been locked up. Even there they had found a photo of Clara in every generation of Blackfield School alumni, so we can conclude that the evil demon in question is Clara. Meanwhile, Clara, who has managed to manipulate Gren and make men. Then he continued to tell Samantha to leave the hostel immediately, because soon something very terrible would happen in the place. On the other hand, Judd, who still believes that the demon he summoned has risen and entered his body, suddenly behaves strangely and even injures himself, including attacking Dog and May, until he wants to kill him. Not long after, Gren, who had become Clara's servant, came. But not to stop the fight, but rather catch them all. While Samantha, who was still running away, finally he arrived at a house and rushed to call the police for help. After contacting the police, Samantha, who was worried about Clara, decided to return to the dormitory. While in the dorm, Dog, May and Judd are newly regained consciousness in a tied position. Then Clara said if she would continue the ritual in order to be completely free, that is, by killing their lives to be sacrificed. Before finally Clara told Gren, who had become his men, to cut May's hair, then continued to cut Dog's fingers, including cutting one of Judd's ears. And the incident just now coincided with Samantha, who just got there by finding a photo of Clara that is in every generation of school alumni. Back to the psychopaths. After being tortured all out, from here Clara finally began to tell Gren to immediately finish off Dog, because Gren did not want the canal to be ruled, suddenly even directly ended his own life. And soon Samantha came to see the dead psychopaths, except for May, so that May, who got the chance to escape, quickly rushed to escape. Clara ran after him. May is cornered and about to be killed by Clara. Samantha then asks Clara not to kill anyone else. The sound of his voice made Clara even more angry, because he told her to leave and not come back. Then, Clara begins to show her true nature, which is a demon who has been trapped in the Blackfield School for years. Then to be free and be able to leave school, he must immediately complete the ritual, which is to finish off May. He was the last person to be sacrificed. So Samantha, who from the beginning cared for Clara, immediately allowed it and without thinking immediately killed May. To complete the ritual before finally freeing Clara, ritual was successfully completed. Then at the end of the film, after the psychopaths are killed as ritual victims, the police arrive to evacuate the victims, because previously get a phone call from Samantha.